Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate Day number 894, Tuesday, September 10th. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, well, we don't have very much Spygate news today. We're kind of in a lull as we await the release of the Horowitz report. Although we should be talking about the hearings that should be going on right now in Congress since Horowitz put out his report on Comey. Normally that's followed by hearings in both the House and the Senate. Unfortunately, we don't have that going on, certainly in the House, and but we don't even see anything going on in the Senate. You have to wonder what's going on. Now, maybe something will happen, I don't know. I mean, they just came back to work yesterday after their 6-week recess, so maybe someone will have a hearing over there on the House side. Or I mean on the Senate side, where we actually control the Senate. You think that there would be something going on over there with bringing Horowitz in to talk about Comey's leaking and lying, but so far, nothing. Haven't heard anything. And of course, we know what's going on in the House this week. In fact, let's go ahead and start right there. So, day one, back in Congress, it looks like the old pencil neck geek, the bug-eyed fool, Adam Schiff for brains, has written a letter requiring Michael Flynn to come and testify in front of the House Intelligence Committee. Yeah, right. Apparently he's not following the legal case that's going on because right now that case is looking like it may get thrown out, and that the Mueller folks, the DOJ folks trying to prosecute Flynn, it looks like they may be in some serious trouble for Brady violations. But I guess the pencil neck geek is not following any of that. He's not following that trial at all, and I'm not sure why in the world he would want Flynn to come in. Flynn's not going to say anything. He can't say anything. He's right in the middle of a legal proceeding, and so really his attorney would tell him not to say anything. The only thing he would do is sit there and plead the fifth. But he's not even going to show up, would be my guess, because Sidney Powell is his lawyer. And I understand that she's sent a letter back to the bug-eyed fool, Adam Schiff, and basically told him to take a hike. So now he's dealing with a whole different character here. Unfortunately, I don't know what was going on, why Flynn had such bad lawyers in the beginning, but fortunately he has finally fired them. Took him way too long, but he finally has fired them, and now he's got a really good attorney, Sidney Powell, who will actually absolutely look out for his interest. And I can assure you, she is not in the mood to play any games with the bug-eyed fool, Adam Schiff. She will flat out tell him where to go. I promise you that. She doesn't pull any punches. So he's playing with a whole different deal here now. So that's day one for the House Intelligence Committee run by Adam the Pencil Neck Geek, the bug-eyed fool, Adam Schiff for brains. On the other committee in the House, we have the House Judiciary Committee. That's where the Penguin sits. Yep, the Penguin. And of course he's announced that his committee will vote this week to officially formalize procedures to set up hearings to determine if the House will introduce articles of impeachment against President Trump because of Trump's crimes and corruption. My oh my, this guy, man oh man. So he knows that he cannot, he knows he doesn't have the votes in the entire House, nor does he have the blessing of Madam Botox to have an impeachment hearing vote, and he knows if he does have one, it will lose badly. Badly. It will not even be close. So now he's going to try something different. He's going to have this almost like pre-hearing in his committee, just down to his committee, where they're going to try to operate almost like he's trying to have a formal House impeachment hearing, but he's doing it just within his committee, which is extraordinary. I'm not sure I've ever seen this done before. And it's because he doesn't have the support to do it in the normal way. So it's a Hail Mary, to say in the least, and I don't think he believes that he has any chance. But what he's trying to do here is he's hoping that he can get some dirt, something, anything that he can use, actually he wants to try to get something that the media can use to put out there, the left-wing media, so that he and the media can put pressure on those Democrats in the House who are not supporting an impeachment hearing or even an impeachment vote, because he wants to put pressure on them. And the whole reason that Nadler is going through this entire exercise in futility is because in his voting district, he is being challenged by an Ocasio-Cortez style progressive Democrat who's challenging Nadler. She's running to his left. So he has no choice, really, if he wants to hold on to his precious seat in Congress and not be defeated by this attractive young progressive woman who's running against him. This, I guess he feels, is his best move, is to try to get some headlines and to try to have something when he obviously debates against her, to say, hey, I'm the strongest anti-Trumper in the Congress. I'm the one who would put on the impeachment hearing, tried to put on the impeachment hearing. I'm the one who's been going after Trump regardless, even when I didn't have the support of my own members, and blah, 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 blah. Because she is totally 100% in his district, out campaigning, talking about how she, if she were there, she would be really pushing for impeachment. And this is putting the pressure on the Penguin. So, this guy can't chew gum and think at the same time, let alone drive the clown car and run an impeachment hearing. It's just not going to happen. He's going to crash and burn. If we just reflect back on his past three performances, first he brings in Michael Cohen, who proceeds to lie 7, 8, 9 more times. And he's, of course, in jail right now. Then, of course, he brings in John Dean, the Watergate rat, and that went really well. And then finally, the grand finale was bringing in Uncle Bob the Executioner, who literally looked like he had never even spent a single minute investigating anything having to do with Russiagate or anything else. It looked like he didn't even read his own damn report. It was a disaster, a faceplant. So Nadler has had nothing but massive fails, and you can expect this one to be just as big a fail as all the others. And I don't care what he tries to squeeze out of these hearings, he is not going to get these 50, 60 Democrats who are running for re-election to sign on to this. And it's not just them. He would need to persuade about 110 Democrats, the 50 some odd who are in purple states or are in red states where they won in the midterms. He's got to get them, and he still has another 50, 60 other Democrats who just don't want any part of it. So people like Joe Manchin and people like that. So he knows the votes aren't there. He knows it's not going anywhere, and he thinks that he can call a bunch of witnesses and have these show trials, hoping he can squeeze any little thing that he can use to feed the media that they can bark about for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for a couple of weeks, until they can put enough pressure on these other Democrats to fall in line and vote for impeachment. But it's not going to work. It's like the ultimate Hail Mary. It's like a Hail Mary with a wiffle football or something. It's just not going to fly, if you know what I mean. But it doesn't matter, because it's for Nadler. It's a political issue for him and his district. It's about his re-election. And it's about this young progressive who's challenging him for his seat in his district. That's what this entire thing's about, and I think just about everyone knows it. And at this point, as we can see, there are the last few witnesses that Nadler has tried to force to come in. Now they're just basically blowing him off. They're just basically saying, nah, I'm not coming to testify in front of your committee. Go ahead, hold me in contempt of Congress. Go ahead and, file some papers with the courts. We'll go through the legal process. The fact is, these people would rather go through the legal process, which will take months and months, rather than bow down and come in front of his committee. People are just sick of this guy, really sick of this guy, and sick of this whole thing. And that's another reason that you should be having Horowitz, and you should be, on the Senate side, you got to wonder, what are these people doing? What are they doing? It's like They have no offense whatsoever. When you look across in the House and you see what's being done, what you should be doing to counter them and to quiet them down and to hit them with the medicine ball, what you should be doing is saying, okay, you want to call all of everybody Trump ever knew and you want to keep doing this thing? Okay, great. Well, we're going to subpoena on the Senate side. We're going to subpoena Comey. We're going to subpoena Peter's been stroking us and Luce Lisa Page. We're going to subpoena McCabe. We're going to subpoena all these people. Bring all these people in. Bring in Glenn Simpson. Bring them in public hearings and sit them down and play the same game. No fight whatsoever. It's almost like these Republicans in the Senate, it's almost like, I don't know, it's like they're devoid of any political common sense. They have no fight in them, or, worst case scenario, they want Trump to lose. They want to lose in 2020. They were happy to lose the House in 2018, and they're only pissed off that they didn't lose the Senate too. I mean, you have to wonder. These people fight like losers. They fight like losers, and it's just sad. Here we have a great president who's a fighter. He's got a handful of good guys maybe in the Freedom Caucus, but outside of that, man, especially in the Senate, what a bunch of, these guys suck. Our Republican Senate sucks. It really sucks. What a bunch of weaklings. My God, I wish we could get rid of these people, but it's nearly impossible, as we all know, because the game's rigged and the fix is in. But we'll see how that goes, but I can assume that this is going to go nowhere, and it's just a bunch of smoke and mirrors, and it's all about personal politics for the Penguin. Okay, well, it looks like we have another shipload of greeny weeny fools. It's a ship of fools made up of a bunch of greeny weenies and a documentary film crew. This is probably about the 5th or 6th time now I've read about something like this. And this particular ship was going to be going toward the North Pole, and they were going to do a documentary film along with a bunch of activists who joined them on the melting Arctic ice. On the melting Arctic ice. But they're only halfway to their destination. They're somewhere between Norway and the North Pole, and they get stuck in sea ice. Stuck in sea ice. And so they have to send in the helicopters to come in and get them out, save their lives, because they run into ice. They're there to document the melting ice. The fact is there's no ice, and they run into it. And this is probably the 5th or 6th time we've seen this happen. So they have this film crew, this documentary film crew, and they have 16 lefty, greeny weeny activists. And once again, they're going to try to go out and prove that all the ice is melting because of global warming or climate change or whatever they call it these days. And once again, they get trapped in sea ice and their lives are at risk. The last time that I read about this, they'd have a Chinese cutter ship come in and cut through the ice to get to them, to rescue them. Then the time before that, it was a Russian cutter that they had used to come and cut through the ice to rescue them. And at this point, my thoughts on it are, screw rescuing these people. I mean, I know it sounds cruel, but something has to be done to get these people to stop doing this. They keep getting rescued. Of course they're going to keep doing it. Hoping that just 1 in a million times that they might actually stumble into some area where there may be a little, where there may not be as much ice as there normally is. Because ice pack around the poles, it comes and it goes. Sometimes you have heavy ice pack. Sometimes you have light. It's all over the place. You can't. There's no. It's a cycle. It goes over thousands and thousands of years, and the entire thing is just a bunch of wacko lefties looking for something to do. They're probably a bunch of rich kids whose parents bankroll them to travel around the world. And I know I've met plenty of these people. When I was in the military, I met plenty of these nuclear weapons protesters, and I would be talking to them, down in the down in town, drinking a few beers, throwing some darts, talking to these protesters, and they would say, "Oh yeah, well my parents, fund me, and I travel around the world protesting nuclear weapons." And I just meet dozens and dozens of these people. So there's a lot of rich kids whose parents are hardcore lefties who have a lot of money, and they basically send their kids around the planet protesting. They're professional protesters for wealthy left-wingers. And that's what a lot of these people are. They're wealthy, the kids of wealthy left-wingers whose mommy and daddy are bankrolling their expeditions. And I guess the way I feel about it at this point, I wouldn't rescue them. I wouldn't. I'd say, look, you people went out there, and because you think there's no ice, you get trapped in the ice. It happens time and time again. You know what? You figure it out this time. You figure it out. Yeah, we know you're out of food and water. Tough. You should have thought about that. You should have planned for that. Now, when you let a shipload of these greeny weenies die of malnutrition, or have to start cannibalizing each other, or they have to start, learning how to fish and take care of themselves or something, I mean, when you see them actually have to pay for their stupidity, then the shit will stop. Quit rescuing these people. Have Shamu for breakfast. Who gives a damn? These people are probably too stupid to catch a fish. They would. I'm serious. You can take all these people. They're stranded out there. They're probably too stupid to even feed themselves. Surrounded by fish. Probably too stupid to know how to catch a damn fish and survive. I'm certain of it. Okay, well, we have Beto. This guy just can't shut up. The skateboarder, Robert O'Rourke, the skateboarder, is now saying that Americans will gladly turn over their guns. Well, I don't think so. I don't know what Americans he's talking about, but I don't know any Americans who are gun owners who would just turn over their guns. He's talking about a buyback program. Well, a mandatory buyback. Well, I'll sell back all the weapons I bought from the government. Sure, I'd be good with that. Yeah, all the weapons I bought from the government, I'll sell back to them, which would be exactly zero. I bought no weapons from the government, so therefore I don't have to sell them any back. I'm good. Well, maybe Beto forgets that the right to keep and bear arms is a constitutional right. You can't just be the president and sign an executive order and say, "Okay, turn in your guns." It doesn't really work that way. It's in the Bill of Rights. It's part of the Constitution. It would take a constitutional amendment. You'd have to overturn it. It's bad enough that they keep violating the Second Amendment as it is with all these rules and regulations. They've practically, done a ban anyway. In a lot of ways, they have. But no, people aren't going to turn their weapons in. And if anyone ever tried it, if Beto tried this, he's never going to be president, obviously. But if he ever did try it, if he ever were to become president, if he ever were to try this, the country would erupt into civil war. Either that, or he would be impeached. One of the two. Probably both. The country would begin to break into civil war. It would become such a problem that he would just simply be impeached. So that's how that would go. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Something tells me he knows that, but remember, he gets to keep the money that he raises after this campaign ends. I think the guy's just keeping his campaign going just so he can pocket a bunch of cash. I mean, he knows he's not going to win, just like about 20 of these other candidates know they're not going to win, but they know they get to keep the money. And people are stupid enough to keep giving him money, despite the fact they have zero chance of winning. Man, oh man. Hey, there's a Trump rally going on tonight in North Carolina. North Carolina. That's right. I believe the lovely and talented Mara mentioned in the comments section of a video last week that she was going to be attending. So right now, as we're doing this video, the lovely and talented Mara is at the Trump rally. And there may be some other people who view this channel that are at that rally. This is in North Carolina. So I don't know if Patty would make a trip. It's probably a pretty fur piece for her to go. But Mara's there. So I'm sure that she'll be reporting back to us in the comment section as soon as she checks back in again to tell us how much fun she had. Maybe we'll see her on camera. We'll watch the Trump rally and see if we can spot Mara. Alrighty, it looks like we have Liawatha. Yes, we have Liawatha saying that on my first day as president, I will sign an executive order that puts a total moratorium on all new fossil fuel leases for drilling offshore and on public lands. And I will ban fracking everywhere. Yeah, and you can say bye-bye to the blue wall. And just going out and saying that in the general election, just going out and saying that, if it was just that one thing alone would, Trump took 3 states and took a huge chunk out of the blue wall. If she goes out and says this in the general election campaign, Trump will finish off the blue wall. There will no longer be a blue wall. It will be turned into a red wall. That's what will happen. But if you were to take what she says on this and other environmental sort of policies that she and the other nuts on the stage with her have talked about, if you did what they actually want to do, you would literally lose probably, well, the fracking industry is about 3 million jobs. The fossil fuel related industries in the United States is about 7 million jobs. So there's about 10 million jobs you would lose overnight. You would probably lose somewhere between $500 billion and $700 billion in domestic product, money, basically. Money that we would not make. Of course, you'd have millions die from exposure just during the first winter after we impose these policies that they're all cooing for. We would probably have gas somewhere around $8 or $10 a gallon. Of course, people would not be out buying new cars, which would destroy the automobile industry and all the other industries that rely on the automobile industry. The entire country would look like Detroit within a year. And after all of that, the only thing that would happen is that the Russians would actually make up the difference for what we don't produce. They would produce it, and they would get all the money, get all the jobs, and get the ability to use all that for their military aspirations as well. And so this is how unbelievably stupid an idea this is. And I really hope that she says this on stage if she ever becomes the nominee, and I'm not so sure she will. I would say less than 50-50 it will be Warren. But if she does say this on stage next to Trump in a debate, he will literally go down what I just went through and explain to her exactly how devastating this would be. That one thing will cost her, not just what cost the Democrats, what's left of the blue wall, it will cost her 40 states. Trump will win 40 to 42, maybe 43 states if she says this in the debates. So I hope she does. On top of that, we have 3 new polls in New Hampshire which now show Biden, Crazy Joe Biden, is now in 2nd place. And these are 3 polls taken in New Hampshire. It's just like I've been saying. You can look at these national polls that keep showing Biden is a front runner. There was one the other day that came out that had him in 3rd, but that could have been an outlier. I don't know that he's there yet. I think he's getting there, but I don't think he's there yet. I think he will get there, though. But when you look at these local polls that they take in New Hampshire, these polls can be more accurate because you are targeting a much smaller area, and they're typically targeting voters. People actually are going to vote in the primary, and they're typically targeting, in this case, because it's a Democratic primary, they're targeting Democrats. These polls are likely Democratic people who are going to be voting in the primary. Keep in mind, you also have these caucus states in there. And when you get into primaries, unlike debates and unlike just everyday stuff that goes on, when you get into primaries, it really is about, and a lot of times, it really is about who's got the most ground support, who's got the most people who will actually get up off the couch and come out to an event, to come out to vote, and come out and support, people to work the phone banks, people to knock on doors, people to tell other people. It really, your grassroots support, and this is why Trump is such a strong candidate. As you can see, he's doing a rally tonight. People were waiting in line yesterday. He'll pack 10,000 people in there, and he'll have another 10,000 outside watching on the Jumbotron. That's what you call strong grassroots support. You don't have to call these people on the phone to remind them to go vote. They're going to be there. But when you look at the field of these Democrats, they're all so unattractive that you have to spend quite a bit of money to be able to motivate these people and put a lot of energy into getting people motivated, because they're not self-motivated. Someone has to motivate them. Unlike Trump supporters, no one needs to motivate them. They're self-motivated. So when you have a situation like that, the person who can bring the most energy or motivated people and support generally the person who's going to do the best in the primaries. And when you look around, you can see these little speeches that crazy Joe Biden gives. There's not a lot of grassroots ground support for him. There's no real, and then when you look at the people, there's no enthusiasm. They're not happy. They're not energetic. They're not excited about Biden. They're just there. And you got to wonder, are they paid to be there? I mean, they look like they don't want to be there. I mean, that's just how it looks when you look at these little speeches he's giving. But at least Warren does have some boots on the ground support. Bernie Sanders, he's got his hardcore group of people who will come. They actually do support him. There actually is some energy and some enthusiasm and some excitement within a faction of people supporting Warren and Bernie Sanders. And nobody else has that. Nobody else really has that. So that's why I think that Biden's not going to make it, among other reasons. Plus, the Rotten Reverend is in the process right now. She's given the word, and they are going to take him down. I said it would take about 4 to 6 weeks. We're a week into it, and we can see the stories coming out. We can see he's falling in the polls. We keep seeing these polls coming out. So we're 1 week into it. I think we have another 3 to 5 weeks to go. I think by the time we get to the middle of October, Biden will be pretty much assumed at that point that he's just not going to make it. Overall, it'll be accepted by most people on the Democratic side, the left-wing media, that as hard as they tried to push Uncle Joe across the finish line, he just ain't going to make it. At which point the focus becomes on the next two people in line. And that's going to be, obviously, Sanders and Warren. Well, Sanders will never get the nomination because Democrats will never nominate Sanders, so the party won't allow it. They'll do whatever it takes, just like they did last time, to stop Bernie. As far as Warren, they could probably live with Warren, but she would have to move really hard to the center after she becomes anointed. She would have to move hard to the center. It's going to be very, very hard for her to do it in the general because the Republicans, and particularly Trump's campaign people, the RNC, they are recording every single thing she says, and all the other candidates too. I mean, she is going to have a very difficult time, and then if she tries to move to the center in the general, her base is going to say, uh-oh, she's gone soft on us. And once they realize that she's now backtracking on a lot of her left-wing points that she said, she will lose their interest and their enthusiasm and their excitement. They'll go over to Bernie, or they'll go vote Green Party. Yeah, they're in a pickle. There's no way for them to go. You can't run that far to the left and then, in the general, try to move back to the center. You can't move that far without upsetting the far left, which is where her support is right now, the far left. And I think the Rotten Reverend Clinton knows this. In fact, I wouldn't doubt what the Rotten Reverend Clinton, we just learned yesterday that the Rotten Reverend and Warren have been talking. Do you think the Rotten Reverend would ever come out and take the positions that Warren has taken? I bet she would not. Oh, no, she certainly would not. And this is why she didn't want to have to run. Hillary doesn't want to run. She just wants to be president. She wants to be the nominee, but she doesn't want to have to. She knew she couldn't get in the debates because she could see that you have to be far, far, far to the left to win. She knows that's not going to work. So she'll let everyone else do that routine. I wouldn't doubt but what the Rotten Reverend's been talking to Warren all along, going, yeah, Elizabeth, yeah, well, you know what I think you should do? I think you should embrace the far left, man. That's where the energy is. I think you should come out for Medicare for all, free health care for illegals, wide open borders, banning AR-15s. I think you should come out for tax increases. I think you should do all that, Elizabeth. Oh, I really do. Oh, man, you'll really light up the left. They'll love you, and that's what we need, someone to really go for that left vote, get that left excited, and go get them other voters out there who've never voted for, never voted because they went far enough to the left for them. But now you can do that. That's why Elizabeth and Clinton have been talking. Hillary's been sitting back telling, yeah, Elizabeth, go hard left, man. Give it everything you got. That's probably what's going on. It's the Rotten Reverend telling Warren to go out there and run as a far leftist. Yeah, you got to run to the left of Bernie, Elizabeth. I ran, and Bernie did pretty damn good against me, and I ran to his right. You got to run to his left. Yeah, run to his left. Run to his left. And just to let me know, and once you got where you need to be, you can count on me to be back there behind you. Yeah, behind her with a knife, get ready to stick it right in her back. Elizabeth Warren knows the Rotten Reverend Clinton, and while they may be talking on the phone and this and that and the other thing, she knows that the Rotten Reverend would stab her in the back and push her under the bus just as fast as she could without a second thought. She knows that the vulture, she knows that the demonic buzzard Clinton is hovering overhead and just waiting for her carcass, crazy Uncle Joe's carcass, to be picked apart and to be rotten on the side of the road so that she can swoop in. That's exactly what Elizabeth Warren's probably thinking, and it's definitely what the Rotten Reverend is thinking. That is funny. That is funny as hell. We learned this story yesterday that Warren and Clinton have been talking. Yeah. Well, what does that tell you? Well, Warren has taken all these far-left positions. What? Is the Rotten Reverend telling her to take all those far-left positions? Or is the Rotten Reverend telling her to go to the center? Because if the Rotten Reverend is telling her to go to the center, she ain't listening. And why she keep talking to her then? The only thing I can think of is the Rotten Reverend is telling Elizabeth Warren to go hard left. Yeah, go hard left. Go hard left. Huh? Yep. Clear the field. That's what the Rotten Reverend's trying to do. Clear the field. Get rid of Biden. You get rid of Warren and Harris. Once you get rid of those three, there's really nothing else left. You got Commie Bernie, but she doesn't have to worry about that because the DNC will take care of that. The corporate donors will take care of that. And many Democrats, won't vote for Bernie. So, man, oh man, what a freak show. What a freak show. Speaking of freak shows, it looks like Rachel Madcow and PMS NBC are now facing a lawsuit, a defamation lawsuit, which has been filed against them by One America News Network. So One America News has filed a $10 million defamation suit against Rachel Madcow, Ricky Madcow, and PMS NBC, apparently because Madcow said on air that the One America News is literally paid Russian propaganda. Paid Russian propaganda. Literally paid Russian propaganda. She didn't say figuratively. She said literally paid Russian propaganda. Well, yeah, you certainly could be. That could be certainly a defaming OANN. And you see this kind of stuff in the media all the time. It's tricky. It's tricky, but I understand why they did it. I mean, you file the suit just to make a point. Even if you don't think you can win it, you file the suit just to make a point. But I hope they win it. I hope that OAN, One America News, I hope that they do succeed. Of course, $10 million to PMSNBC is nothing. That's nothing. $10 million. That's not even. I think Madcow gets more than $10 million. That's probably about what? Less than a month's pay. I mean, that's less than what they pay her in a month. She makes a lot more than that actually in a month. I don't know. I don't think the money's big enough to scare them. I think they should have went for the $100 million. Usually you go way high on these deals. So $10 million, that's not very big. I would have gone for $100 million myself. But I mean, maybe because they've kept the money low, they think that they can actually have the case succeed. There's got to be some reason of going for such a lowball figure. Maybe they think it gives them legal advantage, because usually you go for a big number, and if you're not going to get that, but you go for that. That's what you shoot for. It gets a lot of headline news. It gets your voice out. I mean, $10 million is not hardly enough to even. $10 million? Oh, whatever. They might just pay it. You don't get very much publicity out of $10 million for a corporation as large as the corporation owns MSNBC. PMSNBC. Okay, so anyway, we'll see how that turns out. Good luck to them. Alrighty, well, so I will not. There will not be a video on Wednesday because I have to go out of town for one day on a little out of town junket business. I will be back with another TowerGate video on Thursday, and we're all just waiting right now for the Horowitz report to drop. It's been a pretty slow couple of 6 weeks because Congress has been out of session, not really a lot going on. And on the Spygate front, there really isn't much going on there as well. We're just waiting. The next shoe to drop will be the Horowitz report and the fallout from that. But that's what we're waiting for. In the meantime, we just keep doing the best we can, and just wishing that the Republicans on the Senate side would grow a pair and actually start pursuing this. And we'll just keep watching and do the best we can. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See ya. Bye. Or I'll be back Thursday.